Okay.
Hey.
So, Rob, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you
It's
for
a
having
delight
me.
for us to having you here because we are very big fans of Jamiroquai, funk music. So, thank you very much.
Cool.
The first things I would like to ask you is a little bit about your background. No? How
Okay.
do you start playing guitar and how you end up playing for big names like Katy Perry, Jamiroquai, and
Yeah. Well, I started guitar very young. I was 7 years old, and immediately addicted, hooked. And my parents thought, I have an older brother and sister, and they sort of helped. They pushed them through school, but with me, they realised that it was a waste of time because I was just in the room
all day long?
just playing guitar all day long, and yeah, that's all I ever wanted to do. I made up my mind. As soon as I realised it could be a job, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So.
And you made it.
Yeah, luckily, yeah. There was no other option for me. I wasn't the best student at school, so but I just never, I never sort of thought that I wouldn't have a job, a career in music. Yeah, so.
First, the first goal and the last one. Huh?
Yeah, and I still want, I still never want to stop.
How do you end up in Jamiroquai playing? You 2001, I guess, was your. when you
Yeah, I
the
joined
band?
in '99. I got a call for an audition, so they were looking for a new guitarist. So I auditioned. At the time, I was in the studio working with another artist, but when I found out about the auditions, I got all of the CDs, which I already had, and I just learned every song, apart from a couple that had a didgeridoo on because the didgeridoo player was no longer in the band. So I learned every song of every album, and then did the first audition. I think there were about 37 other players, and then it got narrowed down to about 3 for a second audition, and I managed to kill them. And yeah, I just got the
You
gig.
got the gig.
Yeah.
Nice. How has been the ride so far with Jamiroquai? Has been
It's been, well, I had hair when I started
20 years ago.
20 years ago, and I have now, my hair has decided to have a disagreement with me. It did his own form of Brexit on my head,
Yeah.
which, it's very sad. I'm very sad about Brexit, but yeah, so it's been amazing. It has been amazing. I've learned so much, and I love playing with the band. I'm very, very lucky to play with such amazing musicians, but it's taught me a lot about music and about I always wanted to be a studio musician. I never really wanted to be in a famous band. I just wanted to be a session player. All my favorite guitar players when I was growing up were session musicians. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. And luckily, with the variety of music that we play in Jamiroquai, I get to kind of do that. We do lots of different styles, even though it always ends up sounding like Jamiroquai.
Yeah.
But yeah, in between when I'm not working with Jamiroquai, I do lots of sessions still, and I absolutely love it. Yeah, anytime my wife says to me, if we won the lottery, what would we do? And I'd be like, well, I wouldn't change anything.
Same, right?
I just still do the same thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
But obviously, Jamiroquai is famous for being funk, acid, jazz. Has been that also your main style, or did you come from another background musically?
I like all different types of music. I mean, I don't particularly listen to a lot of funk at home. I listen to lots of singer-songwriters at home. I like quite mellow, maybe it's my age, but I like mellow music. I've always liked songs, so, but all kinds of music, Ray LaMontagne, Bon Iver, Eddie, to Van Halen, to the Foo Fighters, to Earth, Wind and Fire, and Stevie Wonder, Hall and Oates. I like all of it. Yeah,
You can always find something good, I guess,
Yeah.
in any kind of style, right?
Yeah.
Almost any kind of style. I would
almost,
say.
yeah, yeah. There's a few things that I go, oh, I'm not sure of that. But even in modern music, there is things to learn from it. I do a lot of sessions where, yeah, maybe the vocals are really melodined and tuned, but I like the challenge of how do I make this instrument fit with that music. And sometimes it's not even really guitaristic things you're playing, you're doing textural things. Yeah, so right. I love all that stuff. It's good, exciting.
How's been pandemic for a touring musician? How's it been?
What pandemic? What do you mean? It's not real, is it? It's been very scary. Yeah, I was, you know, this is the longest I've been at home. You know, this is my first trip away since I was 20, 19, 20. I've been away and touring and doing stuff. So this is my first trip in 2 years, well, almost just under 2 years. But it's going to be a slow road back to what it was, and it might be just a different version of what it was. So in England, musicians have not had a lot of support, barely any support.
I would say
if anything, is it the same
anywhere,
here?
right?
Yeah. So, but I do know that people are crying. You know, audiences are crying. You know, they can't wait to get out and see live music again, and I just hope that means that there's more value put on the music. You know, it's not just a throwaway thing that, you know, it's a quick, fast commodity that people just use, and then it's a very valuable thing. Music is, without art, we're in trouble, you know, and I mean, all art, theatre, music, we're in trouble, you know.
Yeah, totally. That's interesting, yeah. But it also makes you focus more on maybe writing this time, and because I think you are releasing a new EP, right?
Yeah, I'm doing my first ever release at 50 years old. Yeah, I'm releasing.
Never too late.
Yeah, no, but I've been doing. You know, I've always done a lot of writing. I've written with Jamiroquai, I've written with other artists, and I've written some music with Corey Wong, for example, over the pandemic. You know, we've become quite friendly. We met a few years ago in the States, and he's an amazing artist, and, you know, we've collaborated on a few things, and I just thought, well, actually, I can do this myself as well. Why don't I do some stuff? And I really enjoy doing. So whenever I do like a product demo at home, I will always write a piece of music. I'm not very good at noodling. I'm not like a shred guitar player that can impress. It always has to be a piece of music for me. That's just my preference. I like a track, thought out parts. Yeah.
So, what is gonna sound like this EP? Because I'm very curious what you have in mind. Have you released any? Just Lemon.
Oh,
just
it's
Lemon, no?
the first track. I did a post the other day, just a little teaser, because I'm having to learn about everything I've released before has been on a record label, and it's a whole new thing now. You know, I've been having lessons of my son and speaking to other artists who are doing it this new way, and I'm just doing my first thing is just a 4-track EP, and it's just whatever I feel like doing. Some of it's funky, some of it's, some of it's some more atmospheric stuff, and I'm just going to see how it goes. I'm enjoying doing it, and but then I found out that you shouldn't release anything unless you have a video done, and you have to have interviews. Oh, yeah.
For example,
we're doing it. You have to have people reviewing your tracks for for it when it goes on Spotify. There has to be a lot of other information before it goes on Spotify, and then hopefully in 5 years' time I'll earn enough money to buy a coffee or something.
Hopefully with the Spotify, you can expect that.
But it's unless you're creating music, nothing comes back. You can't just sit waiting for things to happen. So it's good because I want to collaborate with people and I want to play with different people. So
you have a few collaborations in ZP, right?
I've got different players. So I have an amazing drummer called Ash Sohn playing drums on a couple of tracks. I've got Matt Johnson from Jamiroquai who's done keyboards on one song. I've got some horns on another song. It's just everything's been done remotely. Obviously it's quite difficult nowadays to get in a room with other people, and the way music is made a lot nowadays is very rare to get everyone in a studio together. So I do a lot of remote recording, so I'm just used to it, and they're used to it as well. You build up a relationship with someone, and you can explain what you want, and what they're going to give you back. But yeah, it does. It's not the same as being in a room with people, and hopefully that will be the next thing.
Hopefully, yeah, it looks
Yeah.
like it's gonna be possible.
Yeah.
In,
Yeah.
in a short time. Apart from music, you also like to teach. To
Yes.
play music, you also like to teach music. No?
Yeah.
You have been teaching for a long time. You just came from Granada,
Yeah,
right?
I just did 2 weeks a guitar camp over with Elite Music Camps, which was amazing. I started out playing, you know, I was very young. I had a mortgage. I was 18 years old, had a house, and I realized that I had a job. I was working in a job in a factory that if I didn't do something quickly, I was going to be stuck. So I started to teach, and I used to teach every day, maybe 4 or 5 hours a day after work. So I've done a lot of teaching, and then when you're touring all the time, it's very hard to maintain that schedule. You can't.
Yeah.
But over the pandemic, I've been doing quite a bit of teaching, and it's been really interesting because people ask me questions about how do I do something. I'm going, I don't know. Oh yeah, I do it this way.
No.
You figure out things, and then you realise, oh, actually, I can use this. You know, I didn't know I did this. You know, and it helps with your writing, and yeah, you just discover things that you didn't realise. But it makes me think about how I built up what I do, how I do sessions, how I feel about music. Makes me think about that. I come from a place where I don't see the guitar as the most important thing. The song is always the most important thing, and anything I can do to add to it, that's kind of what I'm aiming for, really.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking that for a mainly rhythmic guitarist as you, for example, when you listen to your arrangements in Jamiroquai songs on other sessions you do, they sound amazing, but they don't disturb the main purpose of the song. You know,
Yeah.
they always like in the right place, like.
Do you know why that is? Shall I
Why?
tell you the secret? It's because if it's not, they press mute. Or nowadays they go delete.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful about where you place your guitar parts or any musical parts. You know, you have to think about that. And I've learnt that after doing a lot of
a few decades. Yeah,
but also listening to my favourite guitar players. Everything is placed. It's there for a reason, or it's not there for a reason. So that's how I think about it. I'm trying to look for anything to be a hook for a song. So yeah.
What's your approach when you are? How you come with ideas for a new song? Because
Yeah.
it's a general question, I know, but just in short, how do you approach it?
I want to know what the song's about. It's important to know what the song. There's no point in playing really happy chords and happy parts if the song's about
A breakup or
a breakup. So, but also I listen for spaces in the vocal. I'll figure out whether the guitar is going to be a supporting role or a hook. I think about those things, you know. If you're doing a rhythmic thing in the background, I realize that that's helping the foundation of the song. Whereas if there's a space where the vocal is and you can do a little answer, then those things get pushed up in the mix because they're melodic hooks. So I kind of listen with that, especially in Jamiroquai, I listen with that in mind. And also I think of parts that can help create the vibe of the track, make it funky or rhythmically move it along. So doesn't have to be, you know, don't have to be playing over everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I listen. If someone sends me a session, I always want the vocal. I want to hear what the vocal is.
Right.
So, yeah.
The thing is different, I guess, when you are in a gig, right? Because you I guess, you have more freedom, no, to do stuff solos.
Yeah.
And, no,
Yeah. Records are different because a record has to take repeat listening. You know, hopefully you want people to listen to it time and time again, and if everyone is going full tilt at the choosing me, it's going to be hard to hear. So that's what, you know, my favorite tracks are the classics where you just go, oh, there's a guitar part, oh, there's a keyboard part. You know, everything is supporting the song.
And then sometimes also people forget, especially with guitarists, we tend to overdo things most of the times.
I'm very guilty.
And it's very, and it's so beautiful when just little easy parts comes all together, right? That
Yep.
sometimes people forget about it, no, and
Yeah.
tend to overdo, right? Don't
Yeah,
you?
it's a common thing. I've done it. I'd still do it. I want to be the guitar player, but you do have to think back and go, hang on a minute. People have got to listen to this. There's also a singer, there's a bass player, there's a drummer, there's keyboards, there's strings, there's horns. There's a lot going on, you know, so
Keep it simple, right?
keep it simple. I'm not, you know, I love guitar solos. I love playing guitars. I love hearing
Who
them.
doesn't?
I love them. And, you know, there's nothing better than putting your foot on a monitor on the stage and having the wind blowing through your... yeah, forget it.
Well, back in the days, right?
But yeah, back in the days. But it's not all about that for me. For me, I mean, I know I love it, but I'm happy to be playing rhythm and, you know, helping the groove if I can help the groove. And if I get a solo, great. But my very first tour, first professional tour, was with an artist called Gary Newman, who's a synth pop guy. And I was studying solos and learning Alan Holdsworth and John Scofield, which I still love. But I remember I had a 4-bar solo, which was written all night. And I was like, it's not the most important thing. The most important on this gig is having the sound right, playing the songs consistently, and when it comes to the solo, playing the solo. You know, it's part of a song. So, yeah, that's
how a professional should do, I guess.
It's just how I feel about it. You know, I'm not worried about getting all the accolades of... I'd love to be a better soloist, though. Yeah, I would. But it's not something I work on over playing rhythm and coming up with parts.
Let's talk a bit about equipment and
Okay.
gear.
Yeah.
You have a gorgeous PRS here.
I do.
This is quite new, right?
It's very new. Yes, it's a lovely instrument. I was lucky enough to play it. I have a few PRSs, you know. I was lucky enough to play it when it first came over in England. I did a video for it and was like, I really like that guitar. It's very nice, and I don't get that very often. I'm not a guitar junkie. I don't constantly look at and lust after guitars all the time, but every now and then I find a nice instrument that I want to, oh yeah, I can use that. I'm always looking for tools in the studio, and this kind of bridges the gap in some way for me between the Silver Sky, which I also have, and the DGT. It kind of is not the same, but it means that I can kind of get similar sounds out of one instrument rather than swapping, and it feels really nice to play. Yeah, really pleased with it.
Would you say that because you are more known for using Strat at the beginning, no? And what
Yeah.
made you change? What made you switch to PRS?
Well, it came from me meeting Gavin I was at Music Messe in Frankfurt probably 8 or 9 years ago, and I've known Gavin for a while, but I walked past the stand and there was another friend of mine on the stand and we were just chatting, and Gavin said to me, oh, you never really play our guitars because you know, and I said, well, I play Strats most of the time, and he said, well, we've got an instrument that you might like, and he showed me the Brent Mason Signature, and I really liked it. Even though it had 2 humbuckers, the coil, you know, the split on the coil tap thing, it gave a really modern sounding single coil sound. I won't say Strat because it doesn't really sound like a Strat. It just has its own thing. And after making many records using the same guitar, I thought, well, actually, it might be nice to change things up a bit. And so I used that for a while. And I also had a DGT. And on the last Jamiroquai album, I wanted something that wasn't a Strat and wasn't a Telecaster. I played a Fender Thinline Tele quite a lot. I wanted something that had its own tone. So the middle selection on that really, the album is a very keyboard heavy album. So I wanted my guitar sounds to cut through, but not sound like a Strat. You know, it had a very distinctive tone. And yeah, I played that mostly. that was about 90% of that album was the DGT.
The last album, Automaton,
Yeah.
you mean?
Yep, it was a DGT.
And you have now a DGT, you said, Skyline and the Fury, right?
Yeah,
So-
I've got the Fury, I've got the Brent Mason still. I use them all. You know, I'm very much I don't, when I'm working on a track, I'm looking for colours. I'm looking for whatever colour is going to work for the track. If I pick a guitar up and it's not working, I grab another one. Not working, grab another one. Not working, oh, that one works. I don't particularly go, oh, this needs to be a 335 or a Tele. I'm trying to, it might sound a bit pretentious, but I'm trying to paint colours. So I might use one guitar for 3 notes because they sound right in that song. And then I might play the rest of it with another guitar. So I found with the PRSs, the ones that I have, each have their own character. So the Silver Sky, for example, is like it's like a polished, high definition version of that sound we kind of know. It just sounds like it's like in 4K, you know, and that's what I use it for. It's a really beautiful sounding instrument, and the same with the DGT. It's really warm. I've got an all mahogany bodied one, and it's just such a warm sounding guitar. I love it.
And so thick sound as
Yeah,
well. That's
yeah.
not only, doesn't
Yeah.
sound thin like many of.
Not plinky, and you know, I like that in guitars. But that's what I'm searching for mostly with guitars, is that if they have a warmth to them. I've had many guitars where I've thought, yeah, this is not, it's just too thin. So yeah, and it just so happens that quite a few of them seem to be PRSs nowadays. They're making fine instruments, and this thing looks gorgeous. I must say, it's a great looking guitar.
Would you say your 3 PRS cover most of your necessities, or you still?
Most of them, yeah. I mean, you know, if I'm using, sometimes I've got a big body jazz thing that I'll use sometimes. I've got a 335 that I use sometimes, but a lot of the time, of recent years, I will pick up one of these first.
What
Yeah.
about the rest of your equipment?
Oh, this is
what's what your main, gear?
This is a very small pedal board I brought away with me. Usually I have 2 boards in my studio. One is my overdrive board and boosts and compressor, and the other one is a wet board. But I have a variation of overdrives, just different colours, and then on my so for example, I've got a Shanks, a Vemurem Shanks OD1, which I really love. At the moment, I've got this Gladio Cornerstone, which is a completely different drive to me. It's just different levels of drive, so I can switch between them quite quickly in the studio. And then this is on my other board. I have a Friedman BEOD1, I think it is, which is just like a souped up Marshall type, really high gain pedal, which is great for those things. And then on the other board, I have like a Line 6 HX effect, which gives me all my modulations very quickly. I can dial in things on sessions. And then that goes to my other board, which has got a couple of delay pedals on it, a Strymon Timeline, and this one, which is the Chrono Delay, which I've had for a very long time, which is a really clean delay pedal. And then the Flint, the Strymon Flint, which is reverb and tremolo. And then I will sometimes split them out, so my wet pedals go to an amp, and my dry pedals all go to another amp, so I can have my wet sounds coming out of. It's almost like a studio trick where you get a really clean overdrive and clean tone, and then the wet stuff is almost added like it's in the studio.
Interesting.
So I'll do that. I've had that for quite a while. Been running that rig for quite a while, but I will plug into anything to get the. I've used plugins. I use plugins a lot.
Kemper, you
I
also
used the
own,
Kemper. Yeah, I used the Kemper on tour for the last Jamiroquai tour, just because it's not sexy. You know, it's not as much fun as having pedals and amps, but it is a consistent tone every night.
Yeah.
you know. And when you're changing from arena to arena, and you're doing festivals, in most festivals you don't get a sound check. You're on stage, and you can get, you know, not into trouble, but when your sound isn't the same every night, it can be off-putting, especially when you're wearing in-ears. So the Kemper is consistent every night, and I think when you're using in-ears, that's a really good way to do it.
Yeah.
But I'd much rather have my amps or mic.
Actually, you do own a couple of nice amps, like a Divided by 13, right?
Yeah.
And
Divided by 13. I've got some vintage Fenders. I've got a vintage Marshall 50-watt head, which is incredible. Got a Vox AC10. Couple of Divideds. There's always space on the shelf for another amp, which I'm kind of looking at these ones. But currently I'm using I borrowed it off a friend of mine, but it's a Fender Super Champ, which is just divine. It's an amp that was kind of designed in the very early 80s it was a Fender Champ amp, I believe, and it was modded by Paul Revere. And it's just got the most insane lead tone. So I use that a lot in the studio, and I have an amp switcher made by a company here in Spain called Cahayan. Cahayan, and I love it. It just means I don't have to rewire stuff because I'm lazy. If I've got to do it, I want instant. I want sound, you know, jump from sound to sound really quickly. My studio is really small, so I can literally sit down, grab a guitar off the wall, and I'm running straight away. But it's really messy as well.
And with this device, you just press one button.
Press a button, and I'm from a Fender Princeton to my Marshall or to my Divided by 13, one button, and it works.
Right.
It means I can be recording quick, an idea, straight away I'm doing it.
Let's imagine a producer or someone calls you right now and say, hey, we need you in 1 hour here.
Yep.
Bring your guitar, and you just have time to bring one piece of equipment, one pedal. Which one would you?
I would take my pedal board, and I would take probably my Princeton, because a lot of the records we hear from back in the day, you know, all those Crusaders and, you know, Michael Jackson stuff, it's not big amps, it's small amps.
Indeed.
Small amps that you can gain, you can get overdrive out of, you can boost them, but it's just the way they're voiced, they sit in tracks really well. I've tried to record with 4x12 cabs, and it just doesn't sound it sounds big in the room, but remember it's going,
recording, right?
yeah. So a small amp is the way to go for me. I like small amps, and doesn't need to be too loud.
Nice.
So
my last question would be, we are going to have a clinic now, a master class. What do you have in mind? Would you like to teach these people who come here? Would you like, not to teach, at least would you like them to, I don't know, to know from you? What would you say after so much experience?
I'm just, you know, I just talk about the way I think about music, I guess. Similar things to what we've already talked about, actually, making hopefully memorable guitar parts in a very simple way. I've got a couple of tracks that I'm going to play, and maybe that kind of demonstrates it. And if anyone's got any questions at all, they can just ask what they like, and I will answer, even if it's about how many cars Jay's got, or do you wish you had a Ferrari, which I can say no, I don't really. I don't.
I'm just noting that.
Vintage Mercedes maybe, but you know, but yeah, anything music related. You know, it's just fun, and I do believe there's an overemphasis on every time you put on YouTube now, or not YouTube, Instagram. What is it you mostly see when you switch on Instagram?
Me?
Guitar players, guitars, but it's usually people soloing like crazy.
Indeed.
And I'm thinking, well, who's playing all these solos? What gigs is everyone playing solos on?
Yeah.
Because it's great though, because it's a massive resurgence in the interest in guitar playing.
No, I think it's going to be
it's
interesting.
Really healthy. Yeah.
Because as we were talking before, like we tend as guitarists to overdo, to try to impress, but we have to work for the song.
Yeah.
It's a good.
Yeah, I mean, that's not me putting. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. There's some amazing guitar players out there. 12-year-old kids can play rings round most of us. They're incredible. But I just don't think of it that way. I never really have. I've always been, anytime there's a group of guitar players and we're on stage, and if you get up on a gig and there's 4 guitar players, they're all kind of, they're all taking their solos. I'm usually the one at the back going,
In the rhythm.
and I'm happy to do that. It's fine. I love it.
Because also important, rhythmic.
Yeah,
man,
someone's
who
got
wants
to do
to listen to a 24 minutes solo,
Yeah, I do. But after 24 minutes, I'm going, right, I'm going to get a glass of wine. Yeah, but I love it. I'm a guitar obsessed.
The guitar fanatic, would
I'm a
you say?
guitar fanatic. See what we did there? That was good.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Francois. You're welcome.
Thanks.